All right, let's discuss before we get into Sevilla and the champions of the Europa League once again. Let's discuss Jose Mourinho and what's next for Roma. They do have a game coming up here. Obviously, Champions League now is out for them. No chance of competing in the Champions League, which means we will not have 5 Italian clubs in the Champions League as well next season. It will be just 4. But at the same time, I think we have to applaud what Mourinho has done getting this club to yet again another final. What's next for him, though, Mike? We're starting to hear a lot of rumors. PSG are heating up, obviously. They would love to have Jose Mourinho. I'm sure he would probably be a very good fit for them. He'd be back in the Champions League with them as well. What do you think would be the best decision for Roma, for Mourinho, and also for PSG? Is he the right man?
Well, I was thinking of what I'd call this had he won, but he lost. The special one is now the defeated one, something we did not think we'd see in our House of Champions crew. But it's the truth. It's part of the headlines that goes next to Sevilla, 7th heaven. They've done it again. I should probably do that for a living, coming up with headlines. But I'll sidebar with you on that, Ian. For Mourinho himself, I was torn with this when I read that the rumors are heating up with him and PSG. And when let's talk about that. When I look at the positives of it, PSG are a team, they're in absolute turmoil. They have a manager in Gautier they don't respect. Messi, Neymar, they went and did their own thing. And as players, that's a sign of disrespect to the manager. It's him and Campos that have butting of the head. So they need someone that has the gravitas to command the respect of the likes of Mbappe and some of the other players that we know 100% will be there. If Neymar's there next year, we'll see. Rumors that he might be on the way out. But if he's there next year, that's a positive he brings. A negative in that is Mourinho. He demands total control where he goes. In clubs where he didn't have total control, I think of Tottenham Hotspurs. I think of it Man United. Yes, trophies were brought to it United, but the relationship soured, just like we saw at Madrid. He needs an Inter Milan. He needs a Chelsea at the start before things soured with him. This is an immediate impact sort of thing. The best thing that could happen for PSG if they bring Mourinho, his specialty is not domestic. It is cup competition. You're bringing him knowing that most likely he'll give you Liga, but he will make you more competitive and more difficult to play against in the bigger matches in the Champions League.
Yeah, I agree with you. Producer Des jumped back into our private chat and said, according to some reports today's results will have a major bearing on his chances of getting that PSG job, which I didn't know. So thank you to producer Des for jumping in. Here's my 2 cents on there. And like everybody else out there who's watching the show, to let us know what you think about Jose Mourinho going to Paris Saint-Germain. If that does turn out to be the case, would he be a good fit for PSG? Let us know your thoughts there. And we'll try to share them on the show before we close out here. Jose Mourinho at his age has had tremendous amount of success. Clearly in European competition, we recognize it. This being the first European final that he's lost, which is a sad way to say it. But maybe it's time for a new challenge for Jose Mourinho at this stage in his life. What does he look for? He looks for power. You're right. He looks for control. I think he's looking for a project now. And with PSG and their president or owner, Nasser Al Khalifi, jumping out recently and saying that he is going to change the whole philosophy and take the power away from the players and start to build a project that is a proper project for the development for PSG, not only for success in the Champions League, domestically, but producing young talent and also trying to win games consistently when it comes to European competition. I think that the development, I think that the project, I think the money, I think everything, the city, the bright lights, the domestic success that he will have, it's right time for Jose Mourinho. Ooh. I think this job would be the real deal for him. I really do, because Roma's a great fit for him. It's a passionate city, passionate supporters. Great. He's obviously had success with Italian clubs before, and I'm actually enjoying watching what he's doing with Roma. I think they kind of threw away a Champions League spot this year because of what happened with Juve. They were, focused on finishing 5th, where he changed his team, recognizing that the Europa League might be their only place to get into a Champions League spot. If they win that competition, they then go. So he was changing his teams and manipulating his starting 11, dropping points. Like, they didn't win, I think, any of the last, 6 games domestically, which is ridiculous. So now to go back into the Champions League, to have endless amounts of money, to get paid endless amounts of money, to be living in Paris, to immediately be back on the spotlight, it fits for Jose Mourinho, and he gets to manipulate the way this story ends for PSG in the Champions League. I rest my case. Your thoughts?
You're making me more of a believer than I was when I first heard the rumors. I think it's going to come down to what are some of the other offers. Mourinho is always someone who's on the radar for a lot of clubs. And we know this summer is going to be a blockbuster summer because we're expecting big money moves for a lot of high-level players. I think Mourinho and PSG, one thing we know about Mourinho, when he takes a project with most clubs, Roma is a bit of an asterisk in that because of the budget.
I agree.
He spends a lot of money. So he will need to go to a club where if he wants to make it in his image, he's going to need an owner that he could say, hey, write me a blank check. He had that at Chelsea, did wonders for him. Madrid, obviously, did wonders. If he went to PSG, there is no check that he couldn't cash to get the right players. And a lot of players still will come play for Jose Mourinho. He still has that allure.
Yeah, listen, I would say this, and you can see this fabulous comment right there if you're watching. If you're not watching, you listen to the podcast. Mourinho on Roma's top 4 chances. We can write history and want to continue doing it, but qualifying for the Champions League when spending $7 million on the transfer market is more than history, more than a miracle. It is like Jesus Christ coming to Rome and having a walk around the Vatican. That is Jose Mourinho in a nutshell. Can I just say this, though, and I hope you agree with me, Mike, that if Jose did leave now after this final game of the season, he'd leave a bit of a legend at Roma. I think the fans adore him. I think the players have enjoyed, and Tammy Abraham has certainly been a better player under Jose Mourinho at Roma, as far as I'm concerned. It was a little bit unfortunate that he didn't win that final this time, because he would have won the last 3 European finals, Champions League, Europa Conference League, and then the Europa League, which would have been an incredible story to talk about. But Jose Mourinho, legend at Roma if he does leave.
Absolutely. This is a club that's had a history and reputation for finishing second best. They were always the team that couldn't get it done at the very end, and they get into back-to-back finals in 2 different competitions because of Jose Mourinho. This is a Roma team that without Mourinho, they're not even here. Look at how they got it done. It was down to his tactics. It was a belief in the plan. And if he leaves, this is a Roma side, a Roma fan base that will be in absolute disarray.